Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Burnett. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, broadcasting from the legendary HittnerGroup.com, Hittner Group, all one word, HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. You know, a couple times a year, it's just Kelvin and Senior in the studio as we do our mid-year kind of just, we're talking about real estate today. Just kind of going over some of the numbers, some of the insights, some of the things that we're finding as the market seems to continually evolve. It's never, every time someone says this is the new normal, I kind of get a chuckle.
Right.
Because the new normal typically only lasts a few months, and then it's on to a
new normal.
New normal. So just to kind of review where we are in the market here as we approach the mid-year point. We have inventory on the market now is about 15% more than it was at the beginning of the year. So inventory has
15% more.
15% more homes for sale in the 7-county metropolitan area. It's about 5,300 houses for sale.
Huh, that is up.
And that is up. And that's about actually the same, almost, within like 15 units as it was a year ago.
Really?
Yeah, pretty interesting. So, but if you go back pre-COVID, when we were still in a hot market, 2018, 19, 20 hot market, we're about 62% lower in inventory.
62% lower.
Yeah,
wow.
That's a big number. So almost there was.
So we had 10, 12, about 12,000?
Not 9,000.
9,000.
Yeah, about 9,000 houses on the market, and now we're down to about 5,000.
Time on market then versus now?
Time on market then was measured in minutes, and time on market now is 35 days, 35 days, depending on the price point.
So time on market has gone up dramatically.
Has gone up.
Less inventory. You would think it'd be different than that, right?
Well, that's your fault.
Right?
That's your fault, Kelvin. It's all the interest rates.
Yeah.
Everything has to do with interest rates. And to be honest with you, if interest rates suddenly came down to where they were before, we'd be in a world of hurt. Because with this low inventory number, and we would suddenly we double the number of buyers that are in the market because they could suddenly afford to be in the market. It would be a crisis out there.
Really? In what regard? Why do you mean by that?
Even now, we sold a house last week in Apple Valley. A nice little split entry house, clean as a whistle, 2.5 car garage, beautiful, really nice house. And you're at that price point in some of those suburbs. It's still just tons of showings, multiple offers, and all that. So now imagine doubling that number, and bringing in twice as many people. So you have more people being disappointed because there's no inventory to sell. There's more pressure. Prices would start running out of control again. One thing that has happened with this is we have achieved price stability. So we've got prices now normalizing in terms of appreciation. It's kind of just tracking. It's more of a historical level.
Right.
We've had such tremendous run up over the last 3 years or so. It's unsustainable. Just like 3.5% or 3% interest rates were unsustainable.
Right.
That kind of run up in values is unsustainable.
Right.
So
this morning they're talking about appreciation in the real estate market. They said in January it actually dipped. Appreciation went down 2%, but now it's fully recovered, and they anticipate about a 4 to 6%, depending on where you're at. And this was a global number. Appreciation yet. So that's pretty shocking.
And we found that too.
Don't you think we'll be
found the same
flat?
thing. The first quarter of this year, even in the Twin City market, we were off about 0.5% first quarter in terms of average sale price.
Okay.
I hesitate to say value because average sale price I can deal with, median sale price I can deal with.
Right.
But in terms of value, did my property lose value? Well, no, not unless you bought it last year.
Right.
If you bought it last year, it was off 0.5%. If you bought it 10 years ago, it hasn't gone down at all, because if you measure, it's doubled, over the last 10 years. So
anyway, sorry, keep going through.
It's all right, because that's true. It's all relevant. And then you look at the move through, which is what I look at. New pendings, it's 20 days on market is the average days on market before something goes pending. So
really,
from the time it gets on the market, 20 days, and
is that good? Do you feel like that's good?
I feel like that's probably, but again, so much of this I wanted to. I just ran out of time. I wanted to. Maybe we'll do it for next week. I wanted to do an analysis by price point. Because
what are you looking at now?
Well, from 400 and below is a completely different market than 400 and above, or say 500.
It'd be interesting to see days on market for under 4 and over 4, right?
I mean, it's just a completely different market.
And then over 8 and under, probably 3 segments, right? Under 4, 4 to 8, and then 8 plus.
Yeah, actually, $1 million over is a market in itself. So once you
over $1 million?
Yeah, over $1 million is a market all in of itself.
Oh, really?
Because you're getting in there to people with lots of money and lots of cash, and they're less interest rate sensitive, generally speaking.
Generally, yep.
Yeah, they're less interest rate sensitive. They're a little bit more sophisticated in terms of them, just because of their accomplishments and their financial position. They understand that they just want the house that they want. They're building it in many cases, or they're going to buy something and they're going to do substantial renovations and make substantial changes to it anyhow.
Right.
And putting a large amount of cash into the project. And, when rates come down, they'll refinance. They just, it's just kind of like, it costs a little bit more now, but that's, in a couple of years or 8 months or whatever the number is. You keep moving.
Or last May.
Or last May, you keep moving.
A month ago.
Moving the number
of
when it's going to be.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
But in 20 new listings sold, in the last 7 days, about 900. That's down a little bit from last week. Last week was about 1,100. And then you look at the same day a couple of years ago, it always runs about 11 to 1,500 homes a week. So the move through is slower now. I mean, the number of properties that have sold is slowing down. I think we're going to have a real traditional real estate cycle this year. Normally, for
cycle meaning activity during certain periods of the year.
Exactly.
Is that what you
right.
mean by that?
Real estate is always. There's 3 seasons in a year. I mean, there's trimesters.
You always say trimesters, right?
Trimester.
Everybody says quarters, but you're Mr. Trimester.
It isn't quarters. I mean, the quarters, because that's what business looks at as quarters.
So you go January, February, March, April, and then you go May, June, July, August.
Right. So you got your spring market, your summer market, and your fall market.
Okay.
And so the spring market is always very robust. Lots of people coming on. Lots of rental leases expiring. Lots of first-time homebuyer activity. You've got that whole thing.
Right.
Summer market slows. You've got agents on vacation, loan officers on vacation, people on vacation. They're up north. They're just kind of, enjoying Minnesota in the summertime. Then
but those are our biggest closing months.
Well, that's because the property sold in the first trimester.
Right. Okay.
So
you're going sold date versus closing.
Yeah, I'm looking at activity.
Okay. Yeah.
When people are out shopping.
Yep.
And so in the summertime, June is still pretty good. May is still pretty good. July, ghost town. August, crickets. Safe Air comes on. I mean, it's just crickets. That's just
so weird.
It is so weird. And then you've got people going up and closing up their cabins and over Labor Day and all that. And then suddenly it's like, oh my God, winter's coming. And we got to.
There's a hustle bustle to get everything.
There's a hustle bustle. Now we got to get in. You'll have some summertime moves are generally our school district moves.
Right.
People want to get their kids into the school district, or they want to at least get the address, even if they don't close.
Yeah.
At least they got the PA written and the closing date set, so that they can get their kids registered.
What would be, if you were going to buy a property, when would you do it? When do you think you have the best market for a buyer? Is it that your third trimester or
Good
your
question.
third trimester? trimester,
Yeah,
right?
it's a good question. The best time from a buying standpoint, there's 2 times a year actually when it's really good. July and August. July and early August, good time to buy.
Why?
Inventory tends to be stabilized because there's lower showing activity. Sellers tend to be a little bit more malleable in terms of.
So they get a little nervous.
They get a little nervous. Days on the market's kind of creeping up on them. In August, some properties can kind of start looking a little dog-eared. As the dog days of summer roll in, and then November, December are good times to buy because nobody likes having their house on the market during snow time and cold and all that stuff. So those people are typically very motivated. A lot of relocation stuff, a lot of divorce stuff going on at that time, probate stuff. So motivated sellers at that time of the year. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, 612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. When we come back, I'm going to do a rent versus buy kind of a conversation with Kelvin Kaemingk, the money man, when we come back. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to talk. You're always sending me things to watch, right? Trainers to watch, and Barry Habib, your mortgage guru, and I watch all those things. I'm looking at them this year. A couple of things that jumped out at me. On one of them, I forget which one it was. I wrote it down because it struck me so much. We have $30 trillion with a T, trillion dollars in equity, home equity in the market there that people are just kind of sitting on. So that is a lot of money that's just kind of camped. And not that it's not performing, because it's your appreciation is performing, but it is locked into a non-useful, if you will. I don't even know if I want to say that. It's available. Let's say available capital.
Yep, that was Barry Habib had some stuff on how much equity. He said the average home, it's what was it, 200 something?
Yeah, it's almost 300, 250, $260,000
of equity. So your ability to lend that out, and we'll talk about that in the fourth segment, just on some interesting strategies that people are using. But you have access to $150,000 easy
money.
On that.
And so another article think training you sent me this week, they mentioned. I've seen a lot of articles on rent versus buy, and it's now one thing, the headline was, if you're going to renting is $1,000 a month cheaper than buying. Rent versus buy.
Wow.
$1,000 a month costs less to rent than it does to buy. And I looked at that and I thought, that does not ring true to me. And yes, if you look at exact property for exact property, which I happen to have an example of, because I'd used Junior's property that he's got a split entry home in Lakeville that he rents out. So let's just say you've got a property that's worth, as an example, about $400,000, and he gets $2,200 a month in rent. Okay.
Yep.
So if I'm going to buy that property now, a buyer's going to buy the property, and say that they just put 5% down. All right, which is pretty common for a first-time home buyer, I would say, right? 5% down. Is that the most common, Kelvin? Or, all right.
Yeah, 5%, 10%.
5% down.
Probably.
Let's say 5% down.
Okay.
That means that they need $20,000. Now, I'm just for the sake of discussion here, I'm not going to talk about taxes. I'm not going to talk about insurance, because I don't sell insurance and I'm not the government collecting taxes. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about payment and interest rate. Okay, so if I make my rent payment $2,200, I put 5% down on a house price of $400,000. I need $20,000 in cash for the down payment. Now there's some closing costs involved and all that too, but I'm just going to talk about the down payment. Yep. So $20,000 down. So at 5.5% interest rate, the payment on that $380,000 mortgage is $2,157 a month. So it's about the same as renting at 5.5%.
Okay.
At 7.5%, the payment on that is $2,592.
Okay.
All right. So I will grant you that it's about $392 a month more to own that property than to rent the same property.
Okay.
That's the number that article spoke to. And it's such a myopic number. It's such a tiny part of the equation that it's disingenuous to put that out there as a meaningful statistic, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of people, or some people, are saying to me, well, I'm going to wait till interest rates come down. Well, we've seen that movie already this year. They're not coming down anytime soon.
Yep.
So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they come down. It's 2 years from now they're going to come down. So I'm going to wait 2 years, because I think in 2 years rates will come down. Okay. Well, that's a gamble for one thing, but
you have the I'm sure you'll get.
Let's say that
Yep.
that you believe that. All right. So we wait our 2 years. Now we know that our properties are appreciating about 5% a year right now, because they're at their historical normal. Okay, so when rates come down, first of all, do you think that appreciation rate is going to go up or go down?
Up.
Of course it will.
Right.
But for the sake of argument, let's say it stays stable at 5%.
Okay.
You would agree then that rents probably are going to appreciate at the same rate. Makes sense. Property values go up. Landlords want to have a higher, maintain their returns. They're going to
Probably not at the same rate, though. Do
probably
you think?
More.
Think so?
Rents have been going up at a higher rate than values.
Well, it depends if there's rent controls, then no. But,
well, we're not talking
just
about
general. Yep.
Let's take all that
Not
stuff
talking
off the table.
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
So let's take, their rents have gone up. So now that $400,000 property is going to cost you $441,000, because it's gone up 5% for 2 years. So you're at 441. That means that your loan amount now, instead of being $380, is $418. Your down payment, instead of being $20,000, is $22,000. Okay.
Yep.
And your payment at your new 5.5%, assuming that you are correct, is $2,378. But the rent that has gone up along with that is now $2,400.
Right.
All right. So you were right. You are correct in your assessment. You're saving now your payment is now $47 a month less than your rent. So you're patting yourself on the back and saying, see how wise I was.
Right.
Here's the problem with that argument.
Okay.
You have now just locked yourself into a 30-year mortgage, and your mortgage balance is $418,950.
Okay.
Right. If you would have bought 2 years previously at 7%, your mortgage and principal balance right today would be $37,709.
Right.
So you are borrowing, your debt load now has increased $46,241. More debt. That's what it costs you to wait 2 years. Oh, and remember, it costs you an extra $2,000 in down payment. So now your total debt load is up $48,000. But you've saved $47. So you just take that $47. What's the payback on that? Well, the payback is 1,027 months. So in 85 years,
you're ahead.
You broke even on your decision to wait.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's looking at the whole picture.
Right.
And it just does not make sense. And you're running such a gamble that, first of all, properties aren't going to go back because of the short supply, which is structural. So it is not going away. So when rates come down, prices are going to exceed that 5%. So you're going to be even more upside down. That $47 you were so proud of is going to disappear because of the price increase. And you're going to still be even more money behind the eight ball. So waiting in real estate is never a good idea.
No.
Because the long-term appreciation, remember, is not on it's on the whole purchase price of the house. So when you buy a house with a 30-year mortgage, you lock in your costs.
When you buy a house with
you've locked in your costs. So rents can go up, but your payment's not going to go up because you've locked it in. And you also have the opportunity, should it present itself, that in year 2, when the rates are at 5.5%, you were so proud of, refinance. And get that rate down. So now you're refinancing.
And shorten the term or keep the payment. There's so many fun
many things that you can do, and you're doing that now on a $37,000 or $370,000 mortgage, and your debt to and your your value of your properties are higher, so you've got that ratio to work with.
Yeah.
You're suddenly now you're into that, and you have 20% equity on the property. You can eliminate the
PMI.
I mean, there's so much. So waiting.
So why would somebody rent? Like, give the other side a little bit. Like, why? Like, I can think why people may want to just rent,
there's good reasons for renting.
Okay.
People in transition rent.
Yep.
Because it's very short term. People new to an area rent.
Yep.
People with unstable job situation rent because they don't have confidence in the future.
Right.
So renting is a short term obligation, a 1 year lease, short term obligation, not much equity lay out there. And it lets you adapt to your current situation. Sometimes you're coming into the Twin Cities from out of state. We have quite a bit of relocation business going on here. They don't know. They don't know
you
the
just
city.
don't know where you want.
They just don't know where
right.
they want to live. So they rent maybe in close proximity to their work if they work on site, and then they realize that I'd really rather live over on this side of town, and that's kind of they learn the market.
Learn the market. Yep.
Yeah,
that's what I see as well.
And but some people rent. I mean, we know people that have rented their whole lives, and it's so stupid because they've made mortgage payments their whole life on behalf of somebody else.
I have one I'm working on right now. We'll get to it in
next segment. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. We'll be right back up to break. We went through an example of renting and people who say that they want to delay a purchase, hoping that interest rates come down. What a mistake that is, and I went through it. Made you think of it.
Well, it was a situation I'm dealing with right now, and it's good in the sense that it's they're going to get out of renting. But I went. It was a couple that everything's so much technology driven anymore. They just say, "Hey, you fill out an app," and they're like, "Oh, we're just not really good with technology," and blah blah blah. And I said, "Do you have a coffee shop around you somewhere?" And I said, "Why don't I just come to you? We'll have a cup of coffee and we'll talk, and I'll just do it. I'll do it old school, right? Meet you in person, take it by hand." So I'm asking where they live. They give me their address. I said, "How long you been there?" 17 years. Renting, same place, 17 years. I'm just like, wow, what's the, but it was what we talked about last segment was instability in jobs, had a disability occur in the midst of their life, and never could just seem to get on top of things. And now, everything got built up around them, so suddenly they're the only residents inside of a industrial area now. And so just not a great setting. But here's what's hard, right? Income stability still isn't strong, right? So they qualify for like $185,000. Don't have down payment, so we can use Minnesota bonds. So there are grant programs in Ramsey County we're using, so they can get in with pretty much zero, $1,000 out of pocket. So it's good in that sense. But man, Keith, there's just nothing on the market that's very reasonable at $185.
Right.
And they called me one day and said, "We're thinking we need to switch lenders because we can't find a property." I'm like, I that's not on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's not on me. So just like I said, you have to understand it's a tough market right now to find a property like that.
And that's a frustration
really tough,
that is echoed many times, in the business, and we see it all the time. Property doesn't sell because the seller insists on not fixing something, not painting, not doing this, and then it becomes the real estate agent's fault because their property isn't selling. There's only two reasons a property doesn't sell. One of them is price, and the second one is condition. I mean, otherwise it would sell. So if it's a conditional thing, you can address the condition.
Okay.
But if you don't have the resources to do that, then you have to lower the price. I mean, there is no in between, and people will sometimes wait and hope for somebody that will buy a house in poor condition because of, and fill in the blank for the reason.
Right.
And those people may be out there.
Yep.
The question is if they've been born yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long time sometimes before that person comes along and generally they're willing to take on that load. But not at that price.
Right.
And we were in a property. Kelvin tagged along on a showing that I did recently, and we walked into this property that was in a nice area, nice part of town, beautiful setting.
Yeah.
But the property itself was a disaster. I mean, there wasn't a single room in that house
that wouldn't need full attention.
Exactly.
Not a little bit.
Not a little bit.
Full attention.
But it was priced as if.
As if it was,
nice.
Yep.
And it wasn't nice.
No.
And it was a couple
Shocking.
$100,000. Yeah, shocking. It was a couple $100,000 away from being nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, you anticipated turning the corner into some room and go, wow.
Yeah, this is why.
This is it.
Yeah.
And
There's
no.
Nothing.
Anyway, we just walked out there just going, wow, that's.
Yeah.
But you would buy that property for the outside, a lot of it. I mean, and you can't do that.
And I'm sure that that's what the seller is hoping for. I mean,
Yeah.
they're hoping, but it's 180 days on the market right now in a market that has an average market time of 20 days. And it is a couple $100,000. I mean, even a rehabber would go in there, wanting to pay a third less.
Well, that's now in a situation like that. Does the listing agent on that property that we were in, do they reach out to you and say, "Hey, what do you think of the property? Give me your feedback."
They
blah,
did,
blah, blah.
and I gave them the feedback, and I'm sure it's similar to feedback that they've been getting for 180 days. The seller, I think, is probably in a position where they just can't. Either the mortgage is such that they can't lower the price to a point where it's going to sell, or they just refuse to believe it, which is many times the case.
Really?
Yeah, they just refuse. And that's a problem when you've got a market dynamic that's changing.
Right.
Because on one side or the other, it doesn't matter because it works on both sides. Sometimes the buyer, we've been through markets where it's straight a buyer's market. I mean, we went in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We went in there. The buyers were just lowballing and getting the deals, lots of foreclosures and all that. Just purely a buyer's market.
Right.
When that market shifted, as we came out in late 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, there was a lot of buyers that just refused to believe it.
Right.
And so there's multiple offers on properties, and they're still wanting to come in under the asking price.
Right.
And it's like the market's changed, and now that's gone the other way. Where
in what regard do you mean?
Well,
the other
you
way?
still have some sellers anticipate that they're going to get a premium, and they want to price that premium in from the get-go.
Oh.
They want to try to lock in the premium. And
what's your counsel in that? Because that doesn't seem to make sense. But what's your counsel?
All we can do at that, we explain to them the market dynamics, what our strategy would be, and the why we think that this is a good thing. I mean, it just happened, this week actually with a property that we listed. I thought that the price should be at this point. Because it was a bridge pricing, I was sure that, and am sure that we'd get multiple offers and we could far exceed that bridge and let the market decide where it's really going to land. They wanted to lock some of that premium in, and so we went beyond the bridge.
Okay.
And that's where the thing came out. So now I'm anticipating that we are not going to have those multiple offers. And if we do get a premium, it's not going to be as much, and we may have multiple offers and just get back to our asking price. Which would still be okay.
That's fine. What's the play then? Is the play to, again, this would be interesting on your bracketing, right? Under 4 to 8, and then 8 and over, you say $1 million. But what's the strategy in those three categories in terms of pricing the home for sale? Do you go a little bit lower to anticipate overage that, hey, let's have people bid it up? Or are you more, let's just lock in that premium? What's your strategy in those three?
Well, and you're in the 400 and under, there's a high level of confidence. I have a high level of confidence that we will have multiple offers and we will exceed the asking price, and the market will determine what that number is. The higher you go, the less likely that is to happen. Then you start running into a case where people are saying this thing is priced to the moon. Everyone knows it is, because pricing is, there's no magic to it. It's all public information. Pricing is easy. So
what do you mean pricing is easy?
Well, because it's everything is public information. So when you know that you've got a split entry home in Egan, you've got a history that people can look up on our website or any other website and see what homes like that have sold for. So it isn't like it's some secret It used to be that when there was the MLS books, printed books that came out, well, we were the only ones with a book. So it was hard then to manually go through the book and go through old books looking to try to determine price. Now it's all online. Any consumer can go online in 10 minutes and come up with a reasonable price.
Okay.
For what they think
Yep.
that their property should be. So,
So you said lower bracket, so 4 and under.
Now when you get up above that, same kind of conversation, but your property had better be in super duper condition. So
in what bracket? Second bracket?
The second bracket.
4 to 8?
Yeah, 4 to 8. Now people are looking at condition, and because they're spending a significant amount of money, they want to make sure that when they move in, they don't have to spend the first 6 months repairing things. So if it's dirty, clean it. If it needs paint, paint it. If it's broken, fix it. Simple.
Fair. Yep.
It's fair. And then once you get above that in the $1 million price, now they're looking for things at that price point. I want some architectural features that make that property special and unique.
Would that include like the outside, maybe a pool, not pool, sport court?
Yes,
Court.
absolutely.
Those
kinds of accoutrements.
Exercise room versus no exercise room.
That's where you add
screen
value.
And porch to no screen. That
in a $900,000 house versus $1.2 million. They're probably the same size, with the same number of bedrooms, the same number of bathrooms. What makes that $1.2 million house $1.2 million? It's got a sport court. It's got a 4-car garage. It's got a swimming pool. It's got an outdoor cooking area. It's all those kinds of things that just add value. The square footage is the same. The number of bedrooms is the same, but it has those other things that make it truly special and unique. Cabinetry, door casings, those kinds of things all add to that.
The perception of value.
Perception of value.
Okay.
And they're expensive to add.
That's good language right there. Perception of value.
Yeah, it is. Right.
Rates are good.
Hey, welcome back to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. 612-627-8000. The Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com. Kelvin, Kaemingk, ladies and gentlemen, 651-231-2500. Give them a call. Kelvin, I got a question for you.
I don't think it's question time yet.
I'm going to ask you one though, because I want to know before you go blathering on about rates and mortgages. I want to know about problem solving, because what I had an issue this week with problem solving. I'm not going to get into it now because I want to ask you, with this rate environment that we're talking about, with $30 trillion in equity, what can we do other than say, well, rates are at 7.5%, and you don't make enough money.
What can we do? Well, in terms of just getting people
solving
positioned,
the problem and get them positioned so that they can afford the house. I mean,
well, I think one of the things that we do, and it was interesting. We've talked about quite honestly, the last while now on the radio show, and we've always talked about it in terms of that value proposition between us versus someone else. But it's really the conversation you have and the problem solving that goes into the value proposition that you give people. And that is, like, for example, and they were talking about some of the talking heads as well. Someone sells a property and we're using that equity. Typically people don't even think, and they go, oh, I made $100,000 on my house, I'm putting $100,000 in the new house.
Right.
And that's just, in most cases, if there's existing debt that we can get paid off, it makes so much more sense to pay that debt off and put less down on the new property.
And why is that?
Well, one, you're going to have a lower interest rate. It's deductible on your taxes, right? So we've got that. So we take our overall family cash flow. We do a family cash flow analysis where we look at, okay, what's our current outlay? And then if we did something different than just throw it all into the new home, what's our cash flow analysis look like when we've done what we said we're going to do, in terms of maybe less down on the home, but we got rid of this debt, this debt, this debt, this debt, this debt. One I just got done, we close next week. They're currently in a Chapter 13, 4 payments left, right? You have to have 12 months that you've made payments on time, right? But they're in a Chapter 13 right now, and we redid their whole thing, and they $109,000 from the sale of their home. What do we do with those dollars? Well, you know what we did? We paid off, because they're in our 13. They bought 2 new vehicles since then. Guess what the interest rate is on their vehicles? 21%.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, right? Crazy. Credit cards that they're able to reestablish, 24%. and they have accumulated accumulated some debt again.
Some balances there.
Yep. So we're paying off $77,000 of
High interest
debt. And they are just like, oh my gosh. And we save about $178 difference in terms of overall cash flow. But think of the interest that they're no longer going to pay.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible.
That's dirty interest, too, because it's not deductible.
We call it good debt, bad debt, right?
Uh-huh.
So now we have deductible interest, and their rate is, we lock them at 6.25, 6.25, 6.5. Like all day long, you do that because your effective rate on that, and people don't care.
So what was their monthly?
You
maybe don't remember this, but what was their monthly cash flow savings?
After everything's done, that's $178 that we're saving now because they're literally almost doubling their house payment, right? So you look at that and go, oh my gosh, my house payment's doubling. No, your overall cash flow, actually you saved almost $200 a month, brand new home, new construction, and no other debt.
Right.
And they're just like, that we don't even know what that's going to feel like to not have these other debt payments.
And the beautiful part of that is, in whatever this mythical time frame is, that when rates go back down, they have the opportunity to refinance and maybe save themselves another $100 a month.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of problem solving, that's a big one right now. So if people are listening, you go, gosh, we do have some of this existing debt here, and we noticed on our HELOC we're paying 9% now. We noticed on our credit cards we're over 20%. It's rare to have a credit card under 20% now after the Fed's done what they've done. It might be a good idea to look and say, okay, well, what if I did refinance, took some cash, paid that off? What's my cash flow? What's our analysis look like after the fact? And it's interesting, we're part of Loan Depot, and Loan Depot has kind of two silos. One is a consumer direct silo, and all they're doing is cash out refis, and they're doing really well. But they're just talking to people that have debt, that they're saying, hey, let's consolidate this debt here because of the equity we talked about in our earlier segments, and let's move that debt into deductible interest now and a lower rate. And even though the rate might go from 4.5, let's say, to 6.5, you know what? They got rid of all this debt that was at 20%. So it makes some sense, and it's interesting just to have the conversation and to do that.
And you need to really, because you're not talking about taking a second mortgage.
No.
You're talking about refinancing the existing mortgage, rolling in this other debt in because of the values that we have, and then having now one payment that is primary home payment, fully deductible on your interest.
So a lot of different ways, and but that's one way that we're solving problems right now. I want to touch on, because we just got a lot to cover in the segment. The Fed met this past week. I'm just going to read some of the bullets I had down from the Fed meeting breakdown. The Fed leaves interest rates unchanged but very hawkish, meaning they anticipate Fed members think there will be 2 more quarter point hikes coming. So they skipped this one just so they can continue to analyze, because a lot of things aren't making sense in terms of the fact that inflation's going down, but yet interest rates are going up, and why is that? And there's some logic because of the banking. We don't hear anything about the banking crisis because the media is going to try to keep that stuff tampered down. But there was a pretty big banking crisis, and what happens in that then is everybody's taking a run. The way the banks work is they have to keep 10%. So you put 200,000 in, they got to keep 20,000. Well, when you want to go, and then they take that other 180 and they're going to lend it out, but they have to keep some of it. They might put it in treasuries, mortgage-backed securities. Right. But when everybody comes to go get their money, now they're selling, and that's driving those rates up. And it's I kept saying May 10, May 10, May 10, because that's what all the talking heads were saying, May 10, May 10, May 10. And we had Barry on yesterday on our national sales call, and he goes, we're wrong. I mean, but everything lined up that we said would happen, but because of this banking crisis that you don't hear anything about. And they're also saying the economic data that you're seeing, there's an asterisk by all this stuff, and you're not seeing
the real bit.
You're not seeing everything, and you got to be a little cautious on what you're seeing. So forecasts on core inflation 3.9% by the end of the year, up from 3.6. Unemployment rate expected at 4.1 at the end of the year versus 4.5 previously. GDP expected at 1% versus 0.4 previously. So bottom line is they still anticipate that we're going to see rates come down. They think we'll get to that 5 to 5.5, and gosh, I would just love living in that space, man. So it'd be fun.
Yeah. So then they're always, the thing of it is that they're talking about that now. They're talking about, well, maybe Q1, Q2 of.
They say by the end of the year we should be back down. But we'll see. They've been wrong so far. So
I'm thinking that next year is going to kind of look like this year.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
I sure. Well, there's thoughts on the thought on that is we will just continue to build this pipeline of refinances.
Oh, it's going to be when rates come down because of all this equity. And remember, there's a lot of built-up demand bubbling up now because of the shortage of inventory. And that is, again, it's so structural. It's just when rates come down, we're going to see activity like we haven't seen ever.
No, I know. It'll be good. So where are rates right now? You have to be thinking kind of high sixes, sadly. 6.5.
High sixes is actually
6.5 to 7
something.
Yep. So 6.5 to 7. You're paying a point now. It's crazy. It used to be like no points, just 990 feet, and now everything has 1% on it, just because you're trying to get that rate down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, quite honestly, everybody's doing loans for less right now because it's just like you're just trying to get people into the ability to make that payment, be at a payment spot that they kind of go, yeah, this makes some sense for.
Where do you see your activity? What price points is Loan Depot as a company in our area here seeing the activity? Where's the most of the activity? Is it in the lower, 400 and under?
It's weird. Our average loan size is going down right now. So our average loan size is like 275, and it was running around 325.
Okay, so it's definitely that first-time home buyer kind of.
It really is.
Market.
Yep. And it's that, and people that are moving up that have a lot of equity that they're putting down.
Okay.
Right. So that's where that opportunity for that conversation comes into play. That we're just having that different conversation. But yeah, the loan amounts are a little bit lower. And we're seeing some of the, jumbo stuff just isn't really a thing. Just because the conforming loan limit is so high that we don't see a lot of jumbo, and but probably in that 3, I'd say high 2s to under 5. Like that's probably the majority of our stuff. So I have couple things. Our clock went away, but I think we're okay. Predict. Oh, we got to wrap up here in a little bit. So why don't you take us out? If you want to have a conversation and kind of look at your existing debt structure, or if you want to get pre-approved, just give me a call, 651-231-2500.
I just want to add to that in terms of problem solving is that when you're looking at a mortgage and you've got a lot of money, you're moving up, something like that, and you want to put another $100,000 down or $50,000 down because you think it's going to lower your payment.
It doesn't at all.
And then you're sitting there with $1,000 in car payments that you could eliminate.
Yep.
Buying the mortgage down at 7% is not as good as eliminating a $1,000 car payment.
Absolutely.
So look at that, problem solve it. Give Kelvin a call, 651-231-2500. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, and we'll see you next week.